There are moments in life that change everything. Not because they're loud, but because they're quiet. People often imagine that the hardest day is the day you hear the diagnosis. I used to believe that too. If you asked me back then what courage looked like, I probably would have told you it meant being fearless, never crying, never doubting, never letting anyone see you struggle. I couldn't have been more wrong. You know, it wasn't a specific morning where I woke up and suddenly I became brave. Nobody knocked on my door and handed me acceptance. It arrived so quietly. I almost missed it. Looking back now, I think it began with something incredibly ordinary. I stopped waking up with the question, why is this happening to me? And without even noticing, I started asking, what needs to happen today? People think acceptance feels dramatic. It doesn't. Sometimes acceptance looks like making a coffee, even when I didn't feel like drinking it. Taking my tablets, even though I was tired of seeing them. Putting my shoes on for another consultation, one that I wished I didn't have to attend. Not because I'd stopped being afraid, but because I decided fear doesn't get to make today's decisions for me anymore. I wasn't becoming fearless. I was becoming responsible. Responsible for the life that still belonged to me. I think one of the biggest mistakes I made was believing that if I just learned enough, I'd somehow feel better. I'm one of those people who likes understanding how things work. If something breaks, I'll Google it, I'll watch a few videos, I'll research a few forums. I'll convince myself I can fix it. Cancer doesn't work like that. When I was diagnosed, I read everything I could get my hands on. Medical articles, research papers, patient stories, forums, videos. Some of it helped. A lot of it did not. To be honest, some of it scared me far more than the diagnosis itself. Every answer seemed to lead to another question, and every question made me think, maybe, just maybe, there's still something everyone's missed. I wasn't trying to ignore what the doctors were telling me. I was trying to find a version of the story where they were wrong. Looking back, I don't think I was searching for information. I think I was searching for permission to believe this wasn't really happening. Eventually, I realized something. No amount of reading was going to change my blood results. No amount of Googling was going to rewrite the diagnosis. All it was doing was exhausting me. The fight I thought I was having with cancer was actually a fight with my own reality. And reality was winning every single time. When I think back now, there's something I didn't notice while I was living through it. I was so focused on what was happening to me that I completely missed what everyone else was doing. Nobody in my life tried to pretend everything was okay. They knew it wasn't. But they also never let me believe I had to carry it on my own. My wife, she never stood in front of me and said, "We're going to get through this." She didn't need to. She'd make a cup of coffee, ask if I was ready to leave, sit with me after an appointment. Sometimes we would talk, sometimes we wouldn't. Looking back, those quiet moments said far more than words ever could. My family checked in, my friends checked in. Sometimes it was a phone call, sometimes it was a message. Sometimes it was just, "Hey Miguel, just thinking about you today." It sounds like such a small thing, but when you're carrying something as heavy as cancer, small things stop being small. And then there were my doctors. I probably wasn't the easiest patient they ever had. I had questions, lots of them. I'd go home, I'd read everything I could find, then come back with another notebook full of questions. And do you know what amazes me now? Not once did anyone make me feel like I was wasting their time. They would explain it again, draw diagrams, answer another question, then another one. They never rolled their eyes at me, never rushed me, never made me feel embarrassed for being scared. Looking back, I don't think they were only treating my cancer. They were treating the fear that came with it, and that's something I will never forget. I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, about strength, what it is and what it isn't. Because if you asked me before cancer, I would have given you a completely different answer. I would have said, being strong means handling things yourself. You don't complain. You don't ask for help. You don't burden other people with your problems. You just get on with it. That's how I lived. That's how I worked. That's how I tried to be a husband, a father, a friend. If something needed doing, I would do it. Simple. Then cancer arrived and quietly exposed something I didn't even know about myself. I wasn't afraid of dying. I'm still not. I was afraid of not being able to be there for my loved ones. I was afraid of becoming dependent on other people. That frightened me more, far more. The thought of someone needing to help me, drive me, look after me, carry things for me, I hated that idea. Because somewhere along the way, I did convince myself that accepting help meant losing independence. And if I'm honest, maybe even losing a little bit of who I was. One afternoon, I remember sitting in my car outside the hospital. I had just finished another appointment. The file was on the passenger seat, the engine was still off. I wasn't crying. I wasn't angry, I don't think. I was just thinking. Thinking about how exhausted I was. Not from the treatment, not from the blood tests, not from the chemo, not even from the uncertainty. I was exhausted from trying to carry all of it by myself. And that's when something happened. Not something dramatic, just one simple thought. Miguel, what if strength isn't carrying everything? What if strength is knowing when to let somebody carry it with you? I don't know where the thought came from. Maybe I'd finally become tired enough to listen. But I can tell you this, that one question changed everything. A few people have asked me, when did you decide to fight? I always smile at this one, because I don't think that's the right question. I was already fighting. Every blood test, every appointment, every sleepless night. That wasn't the decision. The decision was something else. It happened one morning, and I honestly can't even tell you the exact date. I do remember making my coffee, picking up my medical file, looking over at Scotty waiting by the front door, like he always did. And I remember thinking, enough. Not enough of the treatment, not enough of hospitals, enough of arguing with my reality, enough of trying to find an answer that didn't exist, enough of pretending that if I just read one more article or asked one more question, someone would eventually tell me, we've made a mistake. Nobody made a mistake. This was my life now. And strangely, the moment I accepted that, I felt calmer than I had in months. Not happier, not relieved, just calmer. Because I finally knew what my job was. My job wasn't to diagnose myself. My job wasn't to outthink the specialists. My job wasn't to carry the whole weight of cancer on my own shoulders. My job was to trust the people who dedicated their lives to treating it, and to give everything I had to the part that only I could do. Show up and take the treatment. Take it like my life depended on it. Ask the questions that mattered. Lean on the people who love me. Keep going, one day at a time. That was the decision. And once I had made it, something unexpected happened. Cancer was still there. The uncertainty was still there. But the constant battle inside my own head finally became quiet. It's funny, nothing around me had actually changed. The blood tests were still waiting, the appointments were still on the calendar, the treatment plan was exactly the same. If you had looked at my diary, you would have thought it was just another ordinary day. But it didn't feel ordinary anymore, because something had changed inside me. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't waking up wondering, what if? I was waking up thinking, okay, what's next? That might not sound like much, but when you've spent months living inside uncertainty, it's a huge step. Life slowly started feeling like life again. Not all the time. There were still bad days, still moments where fear would creep back in. I'm not going to pretend otherwise, but fear wasn't driving the car anymore. It was just another passenger. And passengers don't get to decide where I was going. I also found myself noticing certain things again. The smell of coffee in the morning, the birds outside, the quiet afternoon at home, Scotty following me from room to room, making sure I hadn't disappeared. Those little moments had always been there. I just stopped seeing them. Cancer hadn't taken them away. Fear did. If you're watching this because someone has just looked you in the eye and told you you have cancer, I would like to share something with you. Not because I have all the answers. I don't. I'm still walking this road myself. But there are a few things I wish someone would have told me. The first is, you're allowed to be scared. You don't have to pretend to be brave every minute of every day. There were days when I was frightened, days when I was angry, days when I was exhausted, and there were days when I laughed. I laughed so hard that just for one moment, I forgot that I was even sick. All those days are real. All those emotions, they do belong. The second thing, don't try to carry this on your own. I know that's easier said than done, believe me. I spent months trying. But people who love you aren't helping because they feel sorry for you. They're helping because they love you. Let them. And finally, don't let cancer become your whole identity. Yes, it's a part of your story, a big part, but it's not the whole book. You are still you. You still laugh, you still love, you still have dreams, you still matter. Yes, you matter. Cancer doesn't get to rewrite every chapter. It only changes one of them. Another question I sometimes hear is, are you optimistic? And I usually stop for a second before answering, because optimism isn't really the word I'd use. Optimism says everything will work out. The truth is, none of us know that. Not me, not my doctors, no one. What I have now is something different. I have hope, and hope doesn't need guarantees. Hope simply says, whatever tomorrow brings, I'll be there to accept it. That might be another blood test, another scan, another difficult conversation, or maybe it will be a really good day. I've stopped trying to predict which one it's going to be. I've realized something else though. Life was never guaranteed before cancer either. I just believed it was. Cancer didn't invent uncertainty. It introduced me to it. And strangely, that's made me appreciate today far more than I ever appreciated yesterday. These days, I don't wake up asking, how much time do I have? I wake up asking, what am I going to do today? Sometimes the answer is something unusual. Most days, it's just rinse and repeat. A coffee with my wife, a walk with Scotty, a conversation with a friend. Maybe I'll film another episode, laughing at something completely ridiculous, watching the sun go down. Those are not small moments anymore. Those are life, my life. And if cancer has taught me anything, it's that my life was never waiting for some perfect future. It was quietly happening. In all those ordinary moments, I was too busy to notice. So, here I am. I don't know exactly what tomorrow looks like. I know there are more hospital visits ahead, more blood tests, more waiting, and a stem cell transplant that will probably be the biggest challenge of my life. I'm not pretending that's going to be easy. It isn't. But something is different now. I'm not walking into what's next with fear leading the way. I'm walking into it with trust. Trust in my doctors, trust in my family, trust in the people who've stood beside me. And maybe, for the first time in a very long time, a little more trust in myself. If you've watched this far, thank you for walking this part of the journey with me. I hope you'll keep walking, because this story isn't over. In many ways, it's only just beginning. So, I'll see you in the next chapter.